Greetings, everyone. Today I want to talk to you about the moon. In fact, to some extent about the two moons. But we're going to start by looking at this beautiful creature here in the sky. Such an inspiration to all of us. We're fascinated with the moon and the light it sheds from the sun down upon us. And really, why is that? You know, it's beautiful. There's no question about it. But it's kind of more than that. We've been drawn to it. And of course, it affects the tides and our emotional bodies. It's so intertwined with who we are on this planet, at least in our incarnational bodies. I was inspired to make this video because I came across a video the other day on the web. Actually, it wasn't on the, well, it's on the web, but it's on My Gaia, the subscription video site, that I was so entranced with, so excited about. The video is wonderful, but what excited me were the pictures. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and show you some of those pictures. I can't play the video for you. I can't embed it for you because it is part of a subscription site. And I wish to honor that, of course, so I'm not going to be playing parts of the video. I will give you a link to that for those of you who are subscribers to Gaia. And for those who are not, I strongly recommend that you subscribe to see it. It's an incredible video. But if you can't, I've also got a little trailer I found on YouTube that I'll show you as well. I did take some screenshots of these incredible moon pictures, which are probably already out there on the web somewhere, but I have never seen them before. So I'm going to be sharing all of that. But also I have my story to tell that intertwines with this incredible, for me, discovery of these color photographs of the moon. So let us begin with my article, which actually comes from an older article. Here I published it on the Crystalline Matrix in August of 2011, but it comes from even older material of mine going back to the 1980s, bits and pieces all intertwined. I don't have much here, so I'm just going to read what I do have. I have information on the two moons scattered throughout much of my work since the 1980s, but this is what I was able to grab hold of here. And here's my little 3D artwork of the two moons over Lemuria. Many years ago, I received the first information from my inner plane sources that at one time the Earth had two moons. There has been continued mention of this in my channeling through the years. Now scientists are theorizing this possibility. The catch is they are placing the date when the two moons collided and became one as many million years ago. From my Akashic perspective, backed by Thoth's transmissions, this is not wrong, but it is not the whole understanding. The linear time reality we now live in was separated from the first Earth reality during the time of the last destruction of Atlantis. As a result of the time tsunami, long story, at that time, the Earth and its inhabitants entered the world reality we know today, or at least on the same wavelength. So from that perspective, the moon collisions occurred only around 10 to 12,000 years ago. Yet geologically, it was millions of years ago. I know this can get very confusing. As you see now, as you can see, this is Mindbender. It is a fracture in time that causes one thought stream to attune to Atlantis, Lemuria, and the eons of culture in the past, and another to look at the geology and place it all in the box with Neanderthals. But both are correct, but each seeing only one slice of the whole story. For my channeling to the moons, on the moons, I'm trying to read my sentences here. From my channeling to the moons did not actually collide on their own. The two moons, that's what it was. A comet's gravity caused the smaller moon to break apart, the larger piece colliding with the greater moon, and some fragments falling to Earth. There's also, well, it's a little more complex than that. That's true, I believe, what I just said there. But there are other parts that I've seen since then. I'm not going to try to get into all of it and recraft it all because, again, we're dealing with several timelines, several different things that happened on different timelines. So it gets so convoluted. I'm not going to go there. The point is, we had two moons. Now we don't have two moons. That's kind of the bottom line. Okay. So from my previous writings in the 1980s on the topic of two moons, when the Elohim brought the moons of Earth into existence, there were two moon orbs, one of which was destroyed during the time of Atlantis. Now that's a loaded statement right there. When the Elohim brought the moons of Earth into existence, the Elohim, the Creator Lords. So we don't know exactly what happened there, how they formed, but that's what the statement is. When the Dream Pathers ritually walked the planet, they touched the moon fragments buried beneath all the great ancient structures. These fragments were remnants of our planet's second moon. Then the fallen moon was named Maya by the Atlanteans, meaning in the likeness of light. Our remaining moon was Obregon, meaning desert sun, having been deserted by its twin flame. The dolphins of Earth will play an essential role in the near future when they receive from the etheric moon, physically destroyed, the primordials, or evolution forms of all the living Earth. Goes on to say the dolphins will process these forms and translate them into Earth's current modality. The moon Maya was imbued with primordials. When it perished, the fragments of the physical orb which landed on the Earth were like bits of nautilus shell, holograms of the entire coating. When time comes for the dolphins to receive and awaken the evolutionary stages, they will sift through these forms not only from our present moon, but from the ancient one as well, through its long-buried fragments. In doing so, the sites where these fragments are buried will also awaken their secrets to the initiated of the world. It goes on to say that the destroyed moon was feminine and the remaining masculine. However, within the context of Earth-Moon relationships, the moon as a moon orbiting a planet is in its feminine charge to that planet. In other words, the exchange between a moon and its planet is always feminine. Much more has been stated about the two moons of Earth in my channeled writings and Akashic insights through the years. This page in Search Mythos for Two Moons. So if people want to search more about it, voila, there you are. You can go to my Spirit Mythos website, type in Two Moons, and you get a lot of stuff. But we're not going there with this particular video. Oops, what did I do? I just put that down. Okay. I'm going to fast forward a moment and talk about this video that I watched. I have more to say on my personal story with all of this, but it comes in context with what's revealing here. So the video is Moon Rising, and it's actually part 2 of the greatest story ever denied. The first part deals mostly with UFOs on the Earth, and it's very, very interesting. The last part gets a little into this, but this one really focuses entirely. Now, if you notice in this picture, the moon looks very different. This is not the moon we're used to seeing in the NASA photographs, is it? Well, this is how the moon really looks. Now, this was what was so mind-blowing to me. And this comes, the way they got this, they went to the USGS official site, and on it, tucked away in one of the pages, is a section that says, here you can view the moon by using these skins that you wrap around the diagram, I guess, and it forms what the moon looks like. Well, you've got gray skin, you've got ultraviolet or something, you've got all these skins, and then there's one that says natural color, the real color of the moon, what the astronauts saw when they were there, when they orbited the moon, when they walked on the moon. Well, we didn't get to see that, did we? All we ever see is a gray moon. And in the trailer, which is also in the real video, you will hear a segment where the astronauts are talking to mission control. This is all, of course, official video. This is what we heard on Earth live when the astronauts were talking to mission control, and what we hear on all the recorded videos, which was staged, not necessarily the moon trip staged. That's debatable how many of the trips might have been staged, but I know many of them were for real. But what we really saw, what we really heard from the astronauts, much of it was from a script. It's pretty obvious because they say to the astronauts, well, what are you seeing out of your window there? What does the moon look like? And the astronaut says back, oh, well, it's just gray. It's all gray, like plaster of Paris. That was a scripted line. That was an intended statement to be made to Earth, to us, so we would believe that the moon was gray. It was like plaster of Paris, which is obviously not true. And there's a lot more in the video that tells you that it was all scripted, and this is what they were planning to say, and this was the feed that they were giving us. So here we have what it looks like, but it gets better. Anyway, this particular site is where you can find, and I'm going to put links to this with the video, you can find the actual pay-per-view to watch this video. Yeah, it's a little expensive, but it would be totally worth it. If you don't have Gaia, actually you could get Gaia for a month for less money than this and just to watch the video. But if you want to see the video here, you've got it. And so, as I said, I'll put a link to this at the bottom of it. So here it is. This is what we're seeing. This is what the astronauts saw. This is the surface of the moon. We're going to go through some more pictures. These are screenshots I took. Look at this. Of course, we've seen some of these images before, these circular things, but these are color pictures. This is not artificial color. This is the real deal. Here we see some kind of a dome. So we know that there was or is beings inside here with their atmosphere. You can see the light shining, the sunlight shining off the dome. Look at this one. More. I wish I had highlighted my cursor because I wanted to point out things, but I didn't do that. But anyway, at the top upper right, you can see another structure with structures coming down the side of it. But the color, look at the color. Their ships were far superior to ours, both in size and technology. Boy, they were big and menacing. No, there is no question of a space station. Neil Armstrong. Now, I don't know where this quote came from, but obviously he was not talking to the world press at the time. Now, all of these things that you're seeing, it's hard to determine which. Some of them are, like domed things, but others they determined were floating above, and some of them were moving around. Some of these are actual plasma living entities, and I'm going to be talking about that in a moment. And others are domed areas. From a distance, it's difficult to tell which is which, but here's the 2 mission patches submitted to NASA for Apollo 17. Now, the astronaut that created this knew obviously what was down there. He was trying to kind of talk about it a little bit by putting Stonehenge down there, ancient ruins. And here we have a pyramid with this incredible light coming out over here. And here is one of those magnificent orbs we're assuming. I say we, the people that are looking and studying all of this. And it could be also a structure that's, a light domed creation. Look at the massive connections here and the river of some kind there. You can see this, all this could be underground, huge, massive underground area that's shining through. This is what the moon really looks like. What's been kept from us all this time. Look at this one, with the light refracting off of it. So this, it, and look at that, wow. I'm going to go to some information from Thoth in a moment, but I just wanted you to see these pictures. MIT's Dr. Sean C. Solomon wrote, "The lunar orbiter experiments vastly improved our knowledge of the moon's gravitational field, indicating the frightening possibility that the moon might be hollow." Okay, here I want to interject some things. Since some of you listening to this may not know this, and a lot of you do, but I'm going to repeat it briefly. In probably it would be 1969, when then astronaut Edgar Mitchell came back from the moon. My mother contacted him. I was, 21, 22, something like that then. And, well, she sent him, when I say contacted him, she sent him an envelope with my scientific writings in it. And he told her later that he ordinarily would never have just picked up an envelope like that. There was so much mail coming to the astronauts. They just got back from the moon. They got out of quarantine. And they had all this mail waiting for them. But a hand was drawn to the envelope. It was my information, my material on science material. And he contacted my mother, and we, as a result, we were living in San Antonio, so we drove at his expense. We drove to NASA to talk with him on several occasions, not an official NASA visit, but he was then going to be he was going to retire from NASA and start the Noetics Institute at that point. So he was in the process of doing that. So he was still at NASA, and that's where I visited him on the first trip. And after that, we came to his home, and we were also to his little gathering of people that were forming the Noetics Institute. They researched me, he researched me, and he did several sessions with me on and off. I don't remember, 4 or 5, before he just concluded that if he didn't just quit his Noetics work and just work with me, that's the only way he could get anything from the science that I was giving him, because it was so advanced, but he recognized it as valid. And he didn't choose to do that. He's, the Noetics was his life's plan, and he already started it, and that's what he was going to do. So he had to decide, and he left me and went with Noetics. And I understood that, he actually knelt down in front of me, and he said to me, I'll never forget this. I was 21, and I was a high school dropout because I just could not cut that scene, And he said to me, "Your work is the most exciting I've come across, but I have to make a choice here, and I choose to go with the Noetics." So that's what happened. And I had to kind of fill you in to get to this point about this hollow moon thing. So during all of this time, when I was working with him, I sent him from my home some writings that I had recently done on the moon, and the fact that it had tunnels, and it had a lot of hollow space and tunnels throughout, artificially contrived where there were bases and things going on in there. And he wrote me, I sent him some other information too on the moon, and I can't remember what. And he wrote me back and he said, we already know quite a bit of this. Thank you for validating it. Or I don't remember the words. It was way, way too long ago. I actually had that letter, and now I don't even know where it is, where he wrote that to me. And so I had written about this. He had validated it. That meant that they already knew this, what we're reading right here. So anyway, I wanted to bring that forward. Another amazing picture. Now I'm going to, again, stop for a moment and go over to something else. Well, one more thing before I do, and that is, I know that, in the video, this video that this greatest story ever denied, moon rising, one person in the know says that he talked to someone who was part of all of this, the secrets and everything, and the man was dying, and he didn't seek this fellow out. This fellow found him. But when this particular person found him and showed him all he knew, the man said, oh my, he just said, you need to hear this. I'm not going to be here much longer, and you need to hear this. And that was the point when he said, that it's all lies. Just about everything we've been told about the moon and Mars. Oh, Mars is full of it too, of course, but he was talking specifically about the moon at the moment. He said it's all lies. And certainly the color of the moon and what's going on up there in these incredible photographs, it's all lies, what they've given us. Well, this took me back in time again to when I was sitting at a dinner table. My mother and I were with Captain, I want to call him Captain Mitchell because that's what we called him then, Edgar Mitchell. It was still Captain Mitchell at the time. And his little noetics group at just a meal at his house, I believe, or someone's house. And he was at the head of the table. And we were all sitting there talking and eating, and everything was very affable and, just all fun. And we were just talking, and someone brought up the topic of UFOs and said a few words about them. Not much. Edgar Mitchell just looked at us all like we had two heads. And he said, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. He got up and left the table. That was it. He left. So we weren't in his home. We were in somebody else's. Everybody was stunned. We kind of sat there, finished our meal, and I don't remember. I don't remember if he came back or he was sitting in a living room somewhere where we went and joined him, or, I don't remember. I just remember that he got up from the table and left. He refused to sit there and talk about UFOs. So, now, of course, he's recently passed, but has been for many years a great advocate of releasing information on the truth about, visitations and all of that. And he said, he says, I've never seen a UFO, but, I know that this is true. And I know those who have talked about the fact that we're collaborating with aliens and we have alien bodies and all of this. And he said that, now. He would have never have said that then. But I believe he took to his grave much, much, much more that he did not choose to talk about for whatever reason, maybe fear of his, I don't know. I'm not going to conjecture on that. But he never mentioned this. He never mentioned that he knew this, and I'm sure he did. So who knows what pressures were put on him all those years, and when he finally decided to talk, there were only certain things, very specifically, that he felt he could talk about at that point. And so now we go to this article, Asharael of the Eye of God that I wrote and posted on Island in the Stream in December of 2010. The other day I came across an amazing YouTube video. An amateur photographer has been filming what the narrator is calling either spaceships or satellites in space. Viewing this film, I sensed that it was absolutely genuine, and further, I was startled by the similarity of these things with what Thoth Hara refers to as lotus loci. And lotus loci are, in short, creational life forms that are evolving in the new Earth's numisome, and also in the crystalline structure of our current DNA on micro levels. These loci, a focus of intent, are sentient, yet the higher forms contain encoded God commands that ordain high degrees of pure source radiance, streaming into the entire new Earth star grid. The lotus loci life forms are cosmic nutrients with which to feed our evolving new Earth planet and bodies. After viewing the video of the spaceships, I requested of Thoth what these things are. His reply: these are the Asha Ra'el, the blessed ones of the shining eye of God, meaning the Asha Ra'el. They are living beings and of the same basic substances as are the lotus loci, but their purpose is different. The Asha Ra'el have come now to aid in the regenesis of Earth. In this context, regenesis means a rebirthing into a new Earth star and thus world system 2. Earth is currently world system 1. Now here's the video. It's short.
Here we have an amateur astronomer capable of catching these things with his small telescope and a small camcorder. As it always goes with discoverers of great things, he has no funding, no high-end telescopes, no high-end cameras. He has found something that through his apparatus that he invented is capable of capturing interstellar spacecraft. If the starships that John Leonard Walson has captured in deep space are ours, then I am glad we have them out there protecting our planet. What they are protecting us from is thought-provoking, to say the least. These things are enormous. On the other hand, if they are not ours, I wonder who or what is operating them.
There was a fear then that, of something out there. It became a very big concern. Asteroids, UFOs, people coming from other places. Paranoia was also there within the government. At certain levels, you could feel it. You knew it was happening. I noticed the satellites' positionings. I said, now this is supposed to be a system that tracks radar anomalies on Earth, right? You know, the whole thing, the movement. Yep, that's what it does. And I said, well, why are half of them pointed towards the outer space? Towards the moon, towards areas that are just blank space. Well, I don't know, was the reply. He says, never thought about it. He says, well, at least half of those satellites you got up there aren't looking at Earth. I said, what are they looking for? He says, well, you got to have need to know about that. I said, I see. In other words, who's coming? He says, we don't know. End of subject.
Ever since I got involved with John Leonard Walton, I always now look at the Big Dipper in a totally different way. I can't wait to have people all over the world seeing them. The great thing about the interstellar starships is we know where they are. One of the scientists said it's the Star Wars project. Okay, if that's the case, where were we when they put these things up there? When one thinks how much one large structure weighs, it's inconceivable how we got it into deep space. The machinery it would take to construct one of these things is no less conceivable. And the fact that they can expand and transform into different shapes in deep space is extraordinary. There are questions I have. If they are man-made, then we must have technologies that are way beyond our comprehension. What kind of energy systems are being applied here? This is one big puzzle that has yet to be solved, or at the very least, acknowledged. As John Leonard Walton follows them with his telescope, they are in perfect sync with the Earth's orbit, posing as a star in Orion's belt, the Big Dipper, Vega, or in other constellations. This means that perhaps if one structure is 2.5 light years away, it may be orbiting around Earth at millions of miles per hour. With those kinds of velocities, and with the capability of being able to effortlessly change and transform, it takes an enormous amount of energy. What kind of alloys are they made of that allows them to transform and retract at these velocities in deep space? It has taken us at least 10 years for the United States, with the help of Russia and other countries, to construct the space station. And when you look at these huge structures that are in deep space, you just have to wonder, what are these things? Who inhabits them? There are rumors about secret projects where men and women have been sent into outer space as an exchange program. You need to think about this. We have wars going on right now here on Earth. Our planet is in turmoil. People of the Earth have no concept as to what reality is anymore. We are too busy fighting terrorists, too busy looking out for human enemies. Is something more sinister awaiting our planet? Are we under observation and under close scrutiny? We don't know what we are about to learn about the interstellar communities that are obviously among us, orbiting our planet in our immediate solar system. For the moment, we have barely tipped the iceberg.
And so that is certainly something to think about. Let us continue with what Thoth says about it while we're thinking. The Asha Ra'el, as with the lotus loci, and we're going to take a look at the lotus loci in a moment, contain many parts to their whole and can also host other life forms within them. In this sense, the Asha Ra'el are spaceships, or more accurately, Merkaba, some containing whole communities of human star kindred. So I ask, why do they change shapes at times? Thoth replies, why do you move as you do in the body? They are living beings. If you could see inside your brain at the micro level, you would find very similar appearing life forms in the crystalline microplasma of a working, thinking brain. You will find them in your DNA as well. Their movement is the process of sensory information, also for the gathering of that information and to integrate light encoding into world spheres. I ask, Thoth guided me to a previous transmission and to this specific passage concerning light quantum DNA. He is now equating this type of DNA as a form of Asha Ra'el and Lotus Loci as well. From Thoth, this DNA is not the physical body, in the physical body, but rather, as we say, light quantum, meaning that it is a bending or quantumizing of trajectory paths, wrapping around one another in a helix fashion, carrying information through the interactivity and a combined trajectory. See it as capturing the passing of cars on a freeway with a very slow motion camera. They are individual capsules carrying people information, but in a slow motion. The cars all seem to stream together, especially as if it were not at night and the headlights were on. This would then be seen as streams of light. Now take this image and begin to turn it like a piece of taffy, twisting the streams of light around one another. The LQD, light quantum DNA, is created as a helix when the trajectory paths escape their time-space through quantum flow. Oh, well, that's perfectly understandable. That's something that needs to be studied a bit, but it kind of does make sense. At least it does to me. So I say, are these blessed ones of the shining eye of God a form of celestial beings? Thoth says celestial beings could refer to human beings as well, for do you not swim within the celestial sea? If you attempt to categorize such beings, you will find yourself delving into limiting concepts. So in other words, he's telling me let's don't go there. There are other less limited ways to view it. So, Lotus Loci. As you see, this is an image that I created of one. Obviously, I'm using a fractal creator to do this. You can create these fractals anytime, but that's what they look like. I mean, they are fractalized. Let me get into another view of this. So now I have my video of the Lotus Loci up, which is in the portal for portal members, Kira portal members. I'm going to show you just a few snippets out of this here in this video. You can see here how much they resemble what you just saw on the video of the spaceships, so to speak. And if you could see them moving and changing shape and doing things, they'd look a lot even more like what we're seeing in the video. And of course, the video is very distorted. It's like, I mean, even his telescopic view, because it's so far away and everything, they would appear much more beautiful and more intact like these are. And those aren't lotus loci. Those are, as he said, another form. They're Asher Ra'el, but they're kissing cousins, you know. So it's in the same category. I mean, ballpark, I guess you could say. And then there are the spheres that we see floating around, and the rods and all of that. And they're related too, but they come out of, on this planet, they come out of the Earth and are attached. It's like the energy comes out of the Earth and beings attached to it. They can be like a lot of different kinds of beings. It's sort of the baby versions, I guess you'd say, of this whole thing. And we find them everywhere. You know, they're just everywhere. So it's another form. But look how much that, for instance, looks like. Well, not so much that one, but there are other pictures here, because we're seeing a lot of different things. Some of what we're seeing are on the ground. They're bases, and they're refracting light, but they're built in similar manners. Well, this one, for instance. Now, is this floating in space? Is this one of the Asher Ra'el, or is this anchored to the Earth and there's like a city or something underneath this? It's a little difficult to tell. Here you can see there's structures underneath this one. You can just see them there. This one does seem to be more like a base or something that is reflecting that light. And of course, this is some kind of incredible structure sticking right out of the Earth. And we're back to the beginning again. So back to the little guys on the Earth, on the planet here, the little spheres and things. These intelligent spheres are charged with extensions of our thoughts, yours and mine, all communicating through the spheres and creating larger spheres charged with collective thought forms. The intelligent spectrum includes all living things. Plants emit them on some levels. While plants don't think as we do, they do emit impulse logic patterns, the basis for all thought. The higher devas, or nature spirits, are especially active through intelligence spheres. So, it begins on a very small level and develops, and things can attach to it, create from it, and it goes on and on. So they can even be these massive, massive things that we're seeing, over here. I'm trying to get, going through them again. Some of these are base structures on the planet. Some of them are floating in the space. It's floating like the intelligence spheres we see on the Earth. It's really vast and beyond our comprehension in the truest sense of the word. Even as much information as Thoth has given me, it's just scratching the surface. And so for the finale here, we're going to show you the trailer. I was only able to find a trailer on YouTube.
Today, most people have come to the very clear realization, I think, that things aren't quite as you've been told. And the question then just becomes is, how big is the lie?
Well, that was done. Mm.